Hi folks, and welcome to the 8th video in my Getting Started series for the game B-17 Flying Fortress The Mighty 8th. Now in this video we're going to be going through training mission number 5, which is bombing under poor conditions. Now to get there we're just going to click on the new game panel in the top left and then on the continue switch in the lower right, and then we'll click on the choose a training mission panel on the right hand side and then the continue switch in the lower right. Then we'll just scroll down the training mission list to get to training mission number 5, bombing poor conditions. So as it says here, in this mission you must fly a mission to a target and bomb it. The weather is less favourable, far more representative of a normal European cloud cover. The altitude is 18,000 feet, which is average for a run on a defended target, but luckily there is still no flak of fighter opposition. The bomber starts just away from the initial point of the bomb run, so the full calibration of the site will have to be carried out. Although this lacks the terror of a combat run, it is still a good primer for your first combat use of the Norden bomb site. So there we go, let's get started. So click on the switch in the lower right to play the selected mission.
Join formation. New heading is 186. Repeat, 186. Okay.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just to turn off the overlay in the top left because we don't use it during the bomb run and it's just in the way. So I'm going to do that by holding down Control and tapping H on my keyboard. Then we're going to go to the navigator station just to check exactly where we are on the map. So I'm going to do that by pressing 1 at the top of the keyboard. So here we are at the navigator station in the map view, and we can see this is exactly the same setup as the prior training mission. That is training mission number 4, bombing under good conditions, in that the bomber is still approaching the initial point, which is shown here. We then hook a right, travel down the bomb run, and our target is located at the center of this large green circle here. So that's exactly the same, so that's no problem. So we'll now just go back to the bombardier station by pressing the key to the left of the number 1 at the top of the keyboard, and in my case that's the back tick key. So I'm just going to press the A key so we can have a look through the Norden bomb site, go to the action view. Now here I'm just going to wait for the AI to go into search mode, search for the target and then lock onto that target. And the reason I'm going to let the AI do that, and I do that on all of my bombing missions in the normal game, is because normally on a bombing mission in the historical or campaign missions you'll have 2 to 3 possible bombing targets, your primary, secondary and or tertiary. And if you are trying to lock onto one of those targets yourself or to search for one of those targets yourself, it can oftentimes be really difficult to find them or find the right target amongst those 3, because oftentimes they're actually very close together. So the last thing you want to do is to actually end up bombing your tertiary target by mistake when your intent was to bomb the primary target. So I always let the AI search, find the target and then lock onto it. And when I say lock on, what I mean is by the AI coming out of search mode, and that's indicated by the moment when this yellow light goes off and this marker block here moves from this point at the bottom of this scale and jumps up to somewhere in this vicinity. Then you know the AI has finished its search and lock on. Once it's done that, I immediately go to the bombardier's instrumentation panel by pressing the I key to go to the instrument view and then the space bar to go to the bombardier's instrument panel. I then press the M key to go into manual mode, and now I'm going to set my intervalometer setting that I want for this bomb run. And this target is very small, so I'm going to set this at 150 milliseconds. If I can get there. Yeah, there we go. I'm actually just going to pause the simulation here for a moment by pressing the pause key. Just so I'll explain why I'm selecting 150 milliseconds as opposed to, say, 10 milliseconds. From the prior video, if you watched that, and I suggest that you do, because I cover a whole lot of information around the effect of the different intervalometer settings, is that if you go down to 10 milliseconds, then you're effectively salvoing the bombs. And you need to ensure, therefore, that your crosshairs are bang on target when the bombs are released. If not, then you're more or less guaranteed you are going to miss your target, or if you drop very close to your target, you'll do minimal damage. So what you want to do is when you're bombing under normal conditions where you have wind and cloud affecting the accuracy of your bombing run, that you need to then at least allow for some error in your selection of your intervalometer setting. So setting it at 150 milliseconds for this very small target means that if I'm slightly off on my targeting, because the bombs will drop along a straight line of a relatively short length, but of a length, I've got a far higher chance of at least the majority of those bombs doing damage to the target. Whereas if I salvoed them and was inaccurate in my targeting, I might end up doing 0 damage. So it's just a suggestion. The targets in the actual missions are always more or less larger than in this training mission. So it's actually rare that you would go down to such a low intervalometer setting as I'm selecting here. Typically, I would probably choose somewhere around 250 milliseconds or maybe a bit higher, depending on the length of the target that I'm attacking. So let's go back to the action view, and I'll just unpause this simulation by pressing the pause key again. So pause key, we're running again, press A to go back to the action view, and we're back in AI mode by pressing N. So now we have set the intervalometer setting, the first thing that I always like to do is to first of all just do a course correction. The errors that come into here, you'll have drift error, which is when the target moves to the left or to the right away from where it was originally placed. Or you have the rate error where the target, or the crosshairs I should say, move up or down away from when they were originally placed. So first of all, we want to do a course adjustment to get these back onto the center of our target here. So I'm going to do that by pressing Shift and tapping K, I should say. I'll just get that out of the way. Oh, I need to go into manual mode. Press M to go into manual mode. First of all, Shift K. And then we have free movement of our crosshairs, and pressing Shift K again now to come out of search mode and lock it onto the center of the circle. So that's a course adjustment. Now we can do some drift error adjustments, and I always start with the drift error, and you want to do this as soon as possible in a bombing run. Get your drift error adjustment sorted as soon as possible. And I do that by generally looking at the horizontal line, looking at the vertical line in this section of the bomb site view, and I compare it to geographical features on the ground. And I look for the black line either starting to move away to the right from a feature or to the left away or over a feature. And I look for kind of like little triangles and see if the triangle starts to get smaller or larger, that type of thing. And in this case, I don't think we've got a significant drift, but we definitely do. We can see that we are drifting off to the right to a small degree. So I'm going to go to the instrument view, and we can see that currently the drift setting is off to the right. So I'm actually going to bring that back to 0. So it's straight towards us. Hold down the N key and move my joystick to the left, and you can see that needle has moved back somewhat. Always make small adjustments and then go back to the action view and see what the result of those adjustments are before you make another adjustment. Don't make large adjustments, you'll tend to overshoot. So that's corrected the rate, hopefully. I'm just going to do Shift K again, bring this back towards our target, and Shift K again. Now if we assume that the rate correction was sufficient, and normally I would do further checks down here to make sure that it's not drifting off to the left or right. But the other error we need to cater for after correcting for drift is the rate error. And the rate error, the amount of correction, is indicated by the location of this block here. The further up this scale it is, the more downward correction there is. So it's kind of forcing this horizontal line down. So if this horizontal line is starting to move up, then you want to basically move this block down to counter that. If you see this horizontal line moving down and drifting away from the target, then you want to move this horizontal, this block up slightly. And so again, I tend to use geographical features if I can't clearly see the bombing target, or I use the bombing target itself. And it looks like I'm going to do a course adjustment first of all, get this back onto our target there, and then just see if I can see any movement of this line going above or below our intended target point. I can also say use this little light green area. And I would say that's actually pretty good, but no, I think we're actually moving down. So I'm going to actually pull back on my joystick and make this block move up very slightly. So there we go. That's probably sufficient correction there. Now I'm going to do a Shift K, go to search mode, and Shift K again to lock it into place. Now let's just check our rate setting. You can see the computer on these, the AI on these training mission cheats. It keeps changing the setting of this drift correction. And I set it on 0 and then it jumps and moves it over to there. And I think that's probably a bug in the software for the training missions. Now that doesn't occur in the actual missions, so you don't have to worry about that there. So this is where it gets tricky, as you get a bit of cloud cover. And I think I can definitely see, well, we obviously drifted off to the right because of that computer bug, or the computer cheating. And we're drifting, the rate is pulling this down. So I need to pull back on my joystick a bit more. And I'm going to recenter that where I want it on the target. Not there. So let's hold it there and Shift K there. Okay. Just check out rate correction. That's looking, drift correction I should say, that's looking okay, still on 0. Now I'm targeting up here because when we have the intervalometer set at 150, the bombs tend to drop leading up to the crosshairs, as in before the crosshairs, below them. And I showed that on the prior video, so check that one out. So we'll press F6 to go to the exterior view, and F6 again to look at the target. Now, as I say, when you're doing these runs, the key thing is, first of all, let the AI search and lock onto your target. Then go to the Bombardier's instrument panel, go to manual mode and set your intervalometer setting. Then go back to the action view of the Norden bombsight and make sure that you get your drift correction sorted first of all. And then move on to rate correction. And make sure that once you've got those corrected and you're happy that you've got no drift or rate errors creeping in, then that means that you are synchronized. And once you're synchronized, you can then use Shift K to go into search mode and then move the crosshairs freely around to get them exactly on the target where you want the crosshairs to be, depending on your intervalometer setting. So once you've done that, that should be it. But you will tend to find that you're never 100% correct on your drift and rate error corrections. So you will have to now and again keep doing very minor adjustments to those. But if you've got those pretty well tied down, you should find it pretty easy. The other thing I just want to mention is when the right-hand marker on that Norden bombsight is creeping up and it's close to the bombs being released, do not go into search mode. No matter how much the crosshairs are away from where you ideally would like them to be placed, avoid going into search mode when you are close to the bombs being released. If you do go into search mode and then you try and come out of search mode, you may have actually missed the release point, or if you just catch it, it may actually get itself all messed up. I've never had any success. It always goes absolutely haywire and the bombs never fall where you want them to fall if you try and do that. So always get your rate and drift error corrections done as early as possible, and get your crosshairs located as early as possible, and don't go into search mode close to the bomb release. Anyway, I think that's about everything I wanted to cover. Let's have a look in the mission debriefing. It says, congratulations, you have displayed the required standard of competence and familiarity with the procedures for using the Norden bombsight. You have completed this training mission successfully. If we click on there, we can see that with the 150 millisecond intervalometer setting, the bombs fell leading up to the crosshairs. So actually I should have placed my crosshairs maybe a little bit further on so that I got more of the bombs on the target. So this wasn't a brilliant bombing run, but I actually did manage to destroy all 4 of the buildings in there. So it was a success, fortunately. But again, when you've got wind and cloud cover, it gets so much more difficult. And I would recommend that during normal bombing missions, that if, for instance, it says your target has got 7/10 or more cloud cover, that you maybe want to consider seeking another target. So you maybe want to go from your primary to secondary or to your tertiary. I have bombed successfully with 7/10 cloud cover. 8/10 and above, it becomes extremely difficult. And you get very few breaks in the cloud where you have an opportunity to actually correct any movement of your crosshairs from your target. So anyway, I hope that was useful. Good luck on your missions, and I wish you well. If you like this video, please click on the thumbs up below. If you've got any comments or suggestions, please let me know in the section below. I love hearing back from you. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Anyway, that's it, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Have a good day, and bye-bye.